In recording. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. So on behalf of the PHRC commissioners, senior management, and staff, I'd like to thank all of you for being with us today and joining in the 2022 PHRC Black History Month program. My name is Laura Argenbright, and I'm the Director of Communications for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. We are delighted to welcome today our distinguished keynote speaker, Secretary Newsome, who is Pennsylvania's Secretary to the Office of Administration. You'll also hear from PHRC's Educational and Outreach Coordinator, Stacy Waters, and Executive Director, Lassiter. We ask that you remain on mute throughout the program. If time allows, there will be a few moments for questions at the end of the presentation. This is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook. And just so everyone is aware, we operate on a basic Zoom meeting module, so everyone is live throughout the program. So you are in the same room as all of us, which is why we ask that you remain on mute, and if you have your camera on, you need to be cognizant of that as well. So today, we're going to start our program with a beautiful poem recited by Stacy Waters, Kindness Lives Here by Trapita Mason. Stacy.
Thank you. Kindness lives here. In this vast and tangled land, we know its good and steady bones, its grip and heavy hand. When storms move through us and our town like boisterous visitors, leveling homes, scattering photos and memories and kin, kindness sprawls out on the ground with us, right there among our remaining things. Sheltering us from despair and emptiness, gives drink and meal, brings nails and plank, boards up the shattered pieces, puts us back together again. When shoulders cave at lonesome burial sites and masked and muffled cries haunt the grief-filled air, when bellies pine for a hearty meal and once filled cupboards are bare, we know kindness lives here. When paychecks won't make the stretch, we've come to know grace too. We know it's awesome, limber reach, fluid, flowing alongside us and our blossoming dreams, lifting and holding us up when we fall, pointing us toward the new plan ahead. Kindness lives here. When we call out to a stranger or flash a smile or give a nod to lift haggard spirits, when we step aside and let another take the shine, when we let bygones go and cross the dividing line, to listen, to stand with, to stand up, to say, I don't agree, and I admire and I honor your humanity. We know kindness lives here, lives within us. We dab tear-streaked faces, make bread and covered dishes, lend $1, give a ride, couldn't do just when others wouldn't. Kindness lives here. Oh, I'm sorry. Kindness seeks no return, no fanfare, no grand gestures. In its elegant silence, it moves the needle. It makes a mark. It's a small axe chipping away. It's our salve. It mends and heals. It's our confetti, keeping bright handfuls tossed into the air, landing on us, weightlessly, coloring our vast and tangled world, landing on us softly, so gentle that we hardly notice, but leading us to a trail, a path, a way to do better, to do more, to just do. Thank you.
Unmute yourself, Laura.
Okay, take two. I was just saying, I'm sorry, I apologize that you were seeing my whole screen earlier. You were to just be seeing the PowerPoint, so I do apologize. But next, it's my pleasure to introduce PHRC's Executive Director, Chad Dion Lassiter. Chad is a national expert and voice on race relations. In addition to his many humanitarian endeavors, he founded Black Men at Penn School of Social Work, Inc. at the University of Pennsylvania, where he also earned 2 master's degrees in social work. Most recently, Executive Director Lassiter was honored as a recipient of the Pennsylvania Social Worker of the Year Award, given by the National Association of Social Workers Pennsylvania chapter. E.D. Lassiter, would you please say a few words for us?
Thank you, Laura. Greetings and good afternoon to everyone who's on this Zoom, as well as the extended community who may be watching this on Facebook Live. We're honored and humbled to have each of you here today and what we call at the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, our beloved community. We're also humbled and honored to have Secretary Newsome as our keynote speaker for our Black History Month event of 2022. We were discussing prior to coming on live that it would have been great had we had this in the moment, but this global and historical pandemic has all of us adapting and being resilient. In fact, there's a resiliency is something that we're about at the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Just really briefly, I wanted to provide some quick context that when Carter G. Woodson, who penned his seminal work, The Miseducation of the Negro, established at that time Negro History Week that morphed into Negro History Month to what we know today as Black History Month, he didn't create it from a superiority perspective. He created it to tell the story about a genius people, to tell the story about a people who are part of the American epoch. And so when you look at the way that we are changing narratives in our democracy around the election, changing our narrative in our democracy around, things like critical race theory, we have to be very careful, because if we're not careful, people will say, well, why do you have historical Black colleges and universities? But they won't ask, why is it that they had to be created? Because PWIs, predominantly white institutions, would not let African Americans into those universities. If we're not careful, you'll have people say, well, why do we have Black History Month when we don't have other history months or White History Month, when in our democracy, that's all we've ever had. So that's why it's important to have Black History Month. It's important to have Native American Indigenous History Month. It's important to have Hispanic Month. It's important to have Women's History Month. It's important to highlight LGBT, the disabled, and multiple others. And so I leave you with this African proverb: the lion's story will never be known if the hunter is the one that tells it. And so today, I'm really, really excited that we have a secretary who I met 2 years ago at the height of the killing of George Floyd, where the governor, who gets major kudos for this, it wasn't platitudes, brought together members of his cabinet and others to work in unison to address some of the systemic and structural racism we have in the Commonwealth. And so Secretary Newsome and I were blessed to co-chair a subcommittee entitled Dismantling Systemic and Structural Racism. And we didn't just stay in that space, we continue to be in the space that we're in now, because we find this to be more than just serious, but a calling. And so I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I'm here to listen, and I hope that you all are here to listen and to learn with your humanity and with your spirit. Thank you, Laura. And once again, greetings and welcome to everyone.
Now we're back to Stacy.
Okay, I'm going to read Secretary Newsome's introduction. Michael Newsome was appointed Secretary of the Office of Administration in 2019 and served previously on the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. As a member of Governor Tom Wolf's senior staff and cabinet, Mr. Newsome leads the agency responsible for oversight, administration of the enterprise functions of human resources, information technology, equal employment opportunity, continuity of government and records management and continuity of government, excuse me, and records management for employees under the governor's jurisdiction. Secretary Newsome brings nearly 4 decades of private sector business experience, including accounting, finance, and management to the Secretary of Administration. He previously served as Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the Wolf administration position. He previously served as Executive Vice President and Chief CFO for Wolf and managed information and administrative systems, among other positions at Armstrong World Industries. In 2013, he was named a finalist for CFO of the Year by the Central Penn Business Journal. Secretary Newsome has held past and present roles on the boards of the York County Community Foundation, Memorial Health Systems Foundation, Crispus Attucks Charter School, York County Industrial Development Authority, and York County Heritage Trust, among other organizations. Secretary Newsome is a graduate of Lafayette College. He and his wife, Eloise, live in York County. I'd like to introduce you all to Secretary Michael Newsome.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for that introduction. And thank you, Chad, for your kind words as well. I know when PHRC invited me to speak, there's one thing that you didn't know about me. And you'll find out today that I like Black history. Not because I'm Black, I like history and how our people have figured into it, especially here in America. Black history is not just a month for me, it's my life. I celebrate Black history every day. I live Black history every day. As such, I have my story of over 60 years of association with and living in the Black experience in America. To start off, to give you some context, my mother lived through the Great Depression. She told me about it. I have an appreciation of it, but she lived it. My brothers went to war, Vietnam and Kuwait. They told me about war. I watched some of it real time on TV. I have an understanding of war, but they lived war. So today, when I talk about Blackness, under the context of Black History Month, some of you will relate, even appreciate it. But to live it, that's another story altogether. Some will disagree or misunderstand. And I want to say today that that's absolutely okay. You can't know what or how others have experienced Black history. I can ask you to simply try to appreciate the struggle. I understand why we have Black History Month and why it's necessary for reflection and education. I just think we should have more of it. It will move us forward as a nation and dispel some of the myths and misunderstandings about us as a people. If we reflect on the right things and educate beyond the basics, what a wonderful country this could be beyond where we are now. As I prepared for this day, I had difficulty disconnecting our history from current race relations. I decided we need to talk about race differently. The history of race, particularly here in America, with its history of slavery and all, Jim Crow, is that if we understood it as a construct, that race is simply an idea, a concept, we would be so much better off. We need to talk about that more and how this can be overcome in a positive way. So much of what I will discuss today is under the context of race. I don't think we can separate our history from this racial construct. I read this statement by Charles Blow. He's a New York Times columnist some time ago, and I have since reflected upon it. And I quote, "Generally, people are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior and Black is inferior. The manifestation of this is that we as Black folk have been underestimated, undervalued, and marginalized. Some may want to deny it, but it has been etched into our society over centuries. Let me ask you this. What else has caused such a devaluation of Black lives?" End quote. Now, I wonder if we were able to analyze this truth and then tackle the race issue in a way that moves us forward, could we change the divisive trajectory we seem to be on in America at this point in time in our history? I just wonder. I would like to give you a few things to think about as we discuss the health and wellness of our people, Black folks, right? African Americans. And since we are truly Americans, then we need to understand our history in America and our history before America. Now, some of you who know me, and a few of you know me, know that I only discuss race in the intimacy of my family and closest friends. As Chad alluded to earlier, he and I, your executive director, Chad Lassiter, and I have talked about some of these things, intimate things. However, today I'm going to make an exception, and I'm going to bring you into some of those intimate conversations to educate and to reflect. To begin, we can't talk about the health and wellness of our people without mentioning the most recent history of COVID-19. I know many of you have refused to take the vaccine. I get it, partially, with the Tuskegee experiments and all, and general mistrust of government. But members of our race are dying at a disproportionate rate because of a number of things: underlying conditions, poor health choices, inadequate access to health insurance, close living quarters, and so much more. It perpetuates and exposes so much of how we've been treated over the years. Governor Wolf's administration was built for times like this, such a significant time in our history. We have saved lives with the work done during this pandemic and with our most recent efforts to encourage everyone to get the vaccine and booster shots. Particularly, we recommended or recognized the impact of the pandemic on people of color very early in the process and the need to address it in a focused and intentional way. For example, the administration called for healthcare providers and medical facilities to include race and ethnicity data in demographics provided to the Department of Health with COVID-19 test results, and advocated for more robust, free, and accessible testing for minority and vulnerable populations. Secondly, we can't talk about Black wellness without exploring the economics of our race. I recently read the book called The Color of Money. It describes the efforts of former slaves to improve their economic life in the late 1800s. They were doing what some say we should do: lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps. They established banks and encouraged savings in the smallest amount, even pennies. These institutions were destroyed or exploited, and millions of dollars of Black wealth were lost. The two series currently streaming on your favorite device, Watchmen and Lovecraft Country, they contain depictions of the destruction of Black Wall Street experienced in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I suggest you do some research to explore these events and why they occurred. These are real eye-openers for sure if you are not aware. That stuff is history, Black history, real, not fiction. What's happening today with Black lives, real time, is frightening as well. So where do we go from here? Back to Black History Month. My goal today is to demonstrate to us all Black history is more than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a lot more. I do have a pet peeve about Black history being emphasized only 1 month a year. We need to spend more time educating, especially our children, about the real America and how Black folks fit into this country's rich history. We don't do enough of that. Black history is America's history, and vice versa. You can't separate the two, and we shouldn't. That's why I believe Black history is an everyday event. I want to inspire each of you to get more education about how Black people figure into this America we call home. I recently read the book, When America Stopped Being Great, A History of the Present by Nick Bryant. Great content in this book, but I was drawn to the subtitle, A History of the Present. By the way, I highly recommend the book. Black history is history of our present, as well as memories of our past. Our history is the present in which we live without forgetting the past of our ancestors who have gone before us. The past and the present complement each other. I listen to the radio as I prepare for work each workday, 5 days a week. I wake up with a Black history fact. I hear so much about Blackness throughout the year that when we get here to February, to Black History Month, I've been stoked over 200 times with Black facts since our last month of celebration. Another example of our health and well-being is our education. A healthy society is an educated society, of course. And since we're talking about Black history, our society needs to be educated about Black contributions to America. Black Americans need this education as much as everyone else. The diversity you get with Black people is such a beautiful thing. Not only the beauty of our physical colors and ideas and food and music, but also our creativity and our imagination. I have a younger brother who was born blind. I've tried to understand his world without sight. I've learned a life without diverse thinking is a life without complete sight. Unlike my brother, who has a vast imagination, if there's no diversity in our lives, we can't really imagine what can be, the possibilities. And I'm all about possibilities. How can we add more diversity and richness to our lives? If you have visited the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., you have experienced a little of this richness. You understand a bit of the struggle, of course, but more importantly, you understand the beginnings of our people. We were kings and queens. We were royalty before we were the enslaved. If you haven't visited the museum, I ask you, why not? My guess, if you're Black, you're missing much of the richness of this background history about pre-America Africans. And if you're not African American, aren't you just a little curious about that group of people with whom you interact daily? Black History Month is a time to reflect on our experiences together, not just a time to learn about popular Black people in history, as important as they may be. The museum directs you first to the lower level, long before Columbus discovered America, as we've been taught, long before the slave trade in this country, although the history of the slave trade worldwide is most interesting. There are stories about African kings and queens, princes and princesses. They had healthy societies, well-run government structures, and vibrancy throughout. Were they perfect societies? Of course not. But they're societies without outside influences, healthy families and all. African society was close-knit and disputes were handled within. Part of our history has been an attempt to hide these facts from the African American. We need to understand our past to be able to deal with our present, and at the very least, to attempt to control our future health and well-being. Which brings me back to Black History Month again. Did I say we need more than a month? I'm a huge fan of Black history and how it fits in the everyday fabric of American society. This idea of any race being superior to another is simply a fabrication. This idea has kept one group down and elevated another. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy environment for our country. And it's not healthy for Pennsylvania. The Wolf administration has helped to create a healthy environment here in Pennsylvania. The work this administration has done for the people of Pennsylvania is nothing short of phenomenal. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And since we're talking Black history, I want to concentrate on just some of the work this administration has completed for Black Pennsylvanians. But please understand me. A healthy society for people of color positively impacts all of us, because no society is truly free until we are all free and healthy. I read a book and I wrote a position paper a few years back on mass incarceration. The book, The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. Ronald Hampton, Executive Director of the National Black Police Association, states, this book should be required reading for anyone working in the criminal justice system. It discusses the system that incarcerates Blacks at a disproportionate rate vis-a-vis other groups. That's part of our history, albeit our unhealthy history. So what has this governor done about this kind of injustice to Black folks? The Wolf administration, with bipartisan support, working with the former Secretary of Corrections, our friend John Wetzel, and now Acting Secretary George Little, has worked to reduce the Pennsylvania prison population to its lowest level since 2001. And get this, 70% of that reduction since 2015 has been people of color. In December of 2019, Governor Wolf signed into law 2 Justice Reinvestment Initiative bills. These are bipartisan efforts to make the state's justice system fairer while keeping communities safe. Now, as an aside, I emphasize bipartisan because this governor has worked closely with the legislature, Republican majority in both the House and the Senate, to get these bills done, among so many more. And I applaud that great work. These 2 bills are fixing inadequate sentencing guidelines and reforming the post-trial criminal justice system to focus on rehabilitation of individuals to help them re-enter into society rather than creating further risks for recidivism. The governor has also taken other steps, including removing the criminal conviction question, otherwise known as banning the bots. Signing the Clean Slate Bill, the first of its kind in the nation, to help those who have committed low-level offenses and have paid their penalty get back on the path to a blemish-free record, removing potential roadblocks to jobs, housing, healthcare, and education. To date, over 1.2 million Pennsylvanians have had such offenses expunged from their records. That's approximately 9% of the entire population of Pennsylvania. These bills eliminate driver's license suspensions for non-driving infractions. They expand the time a convicted individual has to file post-conviction relief action. And it updates Pennsylvania's DNA testing law to reflect significant advances in this technology. And this governor, these laws have done so many other important reforms for helping Black people. Some of the other areas addressed by this governor. On the environment, Governor Wolf issued an executive order strengthening efforts to address environmental justice and support low-income communities and communities of color that are adversely impacted by environmental issues with associated adverse health impacts. Think COVID-19. On business development, in support of the governor's executive order for diversity, inclusion, and small business opportunities, the Pennsylvania Minority Business Development Authority has provided millions of dollars in low-interest loans to Black entrepreneurs across our state. This program helps businesses grow, thrive, and create jobs across the Commonwealth. Per Governor Wolf, when we empower our minority-owned businesses through programs like these, we not only help create jobs and grow our economy, but we signal to the rest of the country that Pennsylvania is open for business to everyone. In September of 2017, the Wolf administration's Department of Community and Economic Development, DCED, announced the first approvals of loans for the Diverse Business Financing Initiative, designed to empower minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, disabled-owned, and LGBT-owned businesses to grow and thrive. Recently, the administration announced its support for small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses in Pennsylvania, which led to nearly $856 million in state contract spending for fiscal year 2020 through 21. The Bureau of Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunities detail this record-setting contract spend, a 30% increase from the previous year's total. On voting rights. By the way, I can do this all afternoon. I know we don't have all afternoon, but I can do this all afternoon. On voting rights, if you want to delve into the history of Black people, spend some time examining our fight to obtain voting rights. Women have a similar historical legacy, but there is no more frightening list of atrocities against Black people than during the time of our ancestors' fight to obtain the right to cast a ballot. Without doubt, today that right is absolutely under assault. Governor Wolf and his team have fought tirelessly to combat efforts to impede our access to the ballot box, and that fight continues. Pennsylvania we now have no excuse, vote by mail, and other voting reforms thanks to this administration. On race relations, the widespread reaction to the George Floyd murder and its forever impact on race relations will go down as a turning point for contemporary Blacks in America. Governor Wolf responded. He supported the cause and put his administration behind efforts to make things better for citizens of Pennsylvania. all Pennsylvanians. He set up the new Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the governor's office. And we have revamped the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity in my agency, the Office of Administration. Governor Wolf issued the following statement after a series of racial events here in Pennsylvania. And I quote, "We have shared public concerns over recent incidents in Pennsylvania, including the arrest of 2 Black men at a Philadelphia Starbucks, the treatment of 5 Black female golf club members at the Grandview Golf Course in Dover, York County, and racial slurs being shouted at a Black student by a Penn State student. These types of incidents have no place in Pennsylvania," end quote. On economics in Pennsylvania, this administration's efforts to raise the minimum wage to $15 across Pennsylvania continue, which will directly impact Black people and low-income workers. The governor recently updated his executive order to immediately raise the minimum wage for Commonwealth employees and contractors under his jurisdiction, with all now earning at least $15 per hour, a figure that will be indexed to the rate of inflation, just as it is for the governor, for cabinet secretaries such as myself, for judges, for lawmakers going forward. And finally, I was first exposed to Juneteenth. How about Juneteenth becoming a new holiday? I was exposed to Juneteenth when I lived in Texas. I was in my late 20s before I even realized this celebration existed. I must tell you, you have not seen it celebrated if you haven't lived through it Texas style. Chad, you and I haven't talked about this, but ask me one day about my experience with Juneteenth in Texas, where it all began. When the last of the enslaved people in America, 250,000 enslaved folks in Texas, learned they were free 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Needless to say, Texans did not like that revelation at all. Not one little bit. Well, anyway, back to Pennsylvania. In 2019, the governor signed legislation to designate June 19th as a holiday. And in 2020 and 2021, the governor designated Juneteenth as a special holiday for state employees with a paid day off. The governor said, "This holiday is a time for both celebration and reflection. It is a time to honor African American history and to recommit ourselves to doing the hard work it will take to truly build a society that lives up to the American dream of equality, liberty, and justice for all." You know, I could end this speech right now, right there. But we have a little more time, so I have some more to say to you. Let me get another drink here. Much of history is hidden, distorted, misleading, or fabricated to continue to support the narrative of one group's supremacy over another. Let me repeat what Chad Lassiter just said. Consider this African proverb. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Now, the resulting truth of this is that if we are experiencing the consequences of an unhealthy society where race remains a focal point and we fail to address it openly. But you and I can contribute to making our Commonwealth and our country healthier and more vibrant with more education. So as we continue to reflect on this theme of Black health and wellness, we must go back in time way back in time, long before Black folks were brought to America. And that's why I put such a plug for researching our history. And the museum in DC is a great place to start. Notice I said start. This is the beginning, and there is so much more. And as I have demonstrated so far, much of our present history involves this administration's effect on the people of color in Pennsylvania. That involves you and our present day history to be told to our grandchildren. When I was a little boy, growing up in Hampton, Virginia, I was fortunate to receive good advice, some of it which I was too young to understand at the time. This advice was about inferiority and superiority. They didn't use those words. My teachers in those segregated schools simply reminded me that I could compete, and more importantly, they threatened me that I would never let them down. I actually believe that my early teachers in elementary school and junior high school would somehow find me later in life and hit me with that discipline stick for not being all I could be. I believe that, and it drove me to succeed. I later met some of those teachers at a picnic decades later. I had another life-changing conversation with them. What a fascinating time to spend with my elders. So later, when we desegregated the schools in 1968, 300 Blacks began attending a previously all-white high school after having been in segregated schools for the first 9 years of our education. It was just another school with better facilities, new books every year, and we competed. Well, not just competed, we excelled. The health of our people starts in the home. It moves to the classroom and then on to the life we choose to live. I choose to live a life of inclusion and diversity, integration and acceptance. I need us all to help continue our work together to make Pennsylvania a positive example for the rest of this country. Now, let me wind down a little bit. Allow me to conclude with this story. My two young boys came home from elementary school, late elementary school, one day with a question. Dad, are there any other brown boys like us around? That nearly broke my heart. See, my wife and I had decided to go where we wanted to go in America, to live where we wanted to live, to find the best possible neighborhood we could afford, and to find good schools. As it turns out, this was in a non-integrated neighborhood. We were the only Black family nearby. After the teasing that my boys described to my wife and me, we decided to help them with their self-esteem and their well-being. But my wife and I thought, oh man, we must be living in the 1960s all over again, just like what we went through during our childhood. But this time we were ready. We sat them down and we told them this story. The story is called Life Without Black People. It goes like this. A very humorous and revealing story is told about a group of white people who were fed up with African Americans. So they joined together and wished them away. They passed through a deep, dark tunnel and emerged in a sort of twilight zone where there is an America without Black people. At first, these white people breathed a sigh of relief. At last, they said, no more crime, no more drugs, violence, and welfare. All the Blacks are gone. Then suddenly, reality set in. The new America is not America at all, only a barren land. There are very few crops that have flourished because the nation was built on a slave-supported system. There are no cities with tall skyscrapers because Alexander Mills, a Black man, invented the elevator. And without it, one finds great difficulty reaching high floors. There are few cars, if any, because Richard Spikes, a Black man, invented the automatic gear shift. Joseph Gamble, also Black, invented the supercharger system for internal combustion engines. And Garrett A. Morgan invented the traffic signals. Furthermore, no one could use the rapid transit system because its precursor was the electric trolley, which was invented by another Black man, Albert R. Robinson. Even if there were streets on which cars and a rapid transit system could operate, they were cluttered with paper because an African-American, Charles Brooks, invented the street sweeper. There were few, if any, newspapers, magazines, and books because John Love invented the pencil sharpener. William Purvis invented the fountain pen. Lee Burridge invented the typewriting machine, and A. Leavitt invented the advanced printing press. They were all, you guessed, Black. Even if Americans could write their letters, articles, and books, they would not have been transported by mail because William Barry invented the postmarking and canceling machine. William Purvis invented the hand stamp, and Philip Downing invented the letter drop. Their lawns were brown and wilted because Joseph Smith invented the lawn sprinkler, and John Burr the lawn mower. When they entered their homes, they found them to be poorly ventilated and poorly heated. You see, Frederick Jones invented the air conditioner, and Alice Parker the heating furnace. Their homes were also dim, but of course, Lewis Latimer invented the electric lamp, Michael Harvey invented the lantern, and Granville T. Woods invented the automatic cutoff switch. Their homes were also filthy because Thomas W. Stewart invented the mop, and Lord P. Ray the dustpan. Their children met them at the door, barefooted, shabby, motley, and unkempt. But what could one expect? Jenny Metzelinger invented the shoe lasting machine. Walter Simmons invented the comb. Sarah Boone invented the ironing board. And George T. Seaman invented the clothes dryer. Finally, they were resigned to at least have dinner amidst all this turmoil. But here again, the food is spoiled because another Black man, John Standard, invented the refrigerator. Now, ain't that something, boys? The end of the story. But let me add one more thing for you golfers out there, and this is for my friends at the country club. Every time you put down that little white ball on the first tee, remember this person, the son of escaped enslaved people who became a dentist. He invented the first prototype of the golf tee, Dr. George Grant. You can see prototypes of his early inventions at the WSGA Golf Museum in, of all places, Liberty Corner, New Jersey. Now, tell me, what would this world be like without the contributions of Black folks? The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said that by the time we leave for work, we have been dependent on many of the world's modern conveniences created from the minds of Blacks. I'm submitting to you that Black history includes more than just slavery. Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, as important as they all are. Black history is American history, and the history of America would not be so healthy without Black people. If you didn't realize that, hopefully now you do. So here's a final thought from that book again, When America Stopped Being Great. It's a great book. You have to pick it up and read it. The author is a foreign writer, a BBC journalist. He mentioned his daughter was born in the US. And he mentioned what he would later say to his infant daughter. And I quote, "First, I would assure her there is so much still to love, so much to savor. The splendor of the poetry of Maya Angelou, the ballads of Ella Fitzgerald, the pews of African American churches, the mesmerizing dream of Martin Luther King." He continues, "When she is older, she can be reminded of the revolutionary fervor that brought this country into existence and marvel at the multicultural cast, which showcases how American identity changes constantly over time in ways that should renew and replenish." End quote. It is our task to see to it for our children and for our grandchildren that this country continues to evolve into what it should be as we continue this journey and this great experiment we call the United States of America. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Secretary Newsome. I have several questions in the chat, and I'll start with the first one. You had discussed DOC and the initiatives that Secretary Wetzel and now Acting Secretary Little has taken on. What steps do you feel we as a community could take to help prevent recidivism?
Great question. Great question. I think we can, first of all, there's no secret about the incarceration of Black people. I mean, that has happened over the years, and it's something that it's near and dear to our hearts. And I really, again, applaud the work that this administration has done. But there's still more that should be done and more that we can do. But you as individuals, we as individuals can support the individuals that are coming from from incarceration. We need to, first of all, open our arms to them, right? Receive them back into our communities. One of the things that we talked about, banning the box, Governor Wolf, before he was governor, and he and I worked together, we removed that question from our applications. We removed that box from our applications so that we would hire folks who are returning to the workplace. I think as you talk to your friends and talk to other employers, have them take a look at that. Take a look. I mean, we do background checks. We do significant background checks. We don't have to weed out people before we've had a chance to get them to come and have an interview with us. So we hire some great folks that have just come back from spending time being incarcerated. So I think we can support them as they're coming out, or get them out to vote. If we have the opportunity to vote, get them registered to vote and help them become back into society the way that they should be. I mean, I've had a mortgage on my house. When I paid off the mortgage, the bank sent me a document saying, hey, you're no longer incarcerated with this mortgage, right? So if someone has been in prison for 15 years and they paid their dues to society, why do we continue to incarcerate them after they're free? And so I think we can do a lot more work along those lines.
Thank you so much. We also have a question from Mr. Sheldon Murray, and I'm going to ask Sheldon to read his question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sheldon.
All right, thank you. I unmuted myself. Thank you, Secretary Newsome. I just put in there that this was by far the best presentation I've seen since the days of Homer Floyd, the civil rights dean from years ago. My question deals with, you mentioned our ancestors and the economic harm that they faced. My question is, what are your thoughts on reparations for those individuals that are descendants from American chattel slavery?
Well, yeah, you're going to put me on the spot. You should have sent this question to me a few weeks ago. That's obviously a political hot potato that's out there now. Personally, I think that we are due reparations. Other groups have received reparations. You know, just think about the Japanese that were interned. Let me give you a bit of history to help you put in context that statement that we should receive, not necessarily me, but I'm talking about the enslaved people should have received reparations. Do you know that the slave owners received reparations for the slaves that they lost?
I did, as well as
yeah.
the French when they since the Haitian Revolution.
And by the way, if you go study the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the history of that, those folks actually received reparation. They received 40 acres and a mule, and of course, the folks were beginning to receive those reparations before well-known president of ours stopped that. So it's a political hot potato. I don't think it will ever happen, but I think it's well long overdue.
I want to go ahead and end by saying thank you, Secretary Newsome, for not just the sake of time, but thank you for your passion, your compassion. You live this. It's not just a theoretical model. I want to say to those of you who are in the beloved community, just continue to follow the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. It's not your Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission that you may have known about historically. We've pushed the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission into the 21st century, where we are doing work to address anti-Semitism. We have an anti-Semitism initiative. We have a PHRC Lunch and Learn. We have a PHRC Social Justice Lecture Series. And I would agree with the last speaker from a perspective of it was just a resonating speech. We had Michael Eric Dyson, the noted scholar for one of our PHRC Social Justice Lecture Series. We've had Tim Wise. We've had some really wonderful people. We most recently had ABC Nightline News, What Would You Do host John Quiones. But please follow us on all forms of social media. We have some things coming up with Anita Hill. We have some things coming up with Van Jones. But aside from those type of things, we want to be a better agency for the people of the Commonwealth. All these things that we do here are important, but they're not as important as what we're called to do. We've just added the both and reality to this. We're called to investigate complaints of the 67 counties for people who are on every side of the color line and gender line. And so I'm very appreciative of the work that our Philadelphia regional office does, our Harrisburg regional office does, and our Pittsburgh regional office does. And also, we could not do this without our committed chairman, vice chairwoman, and all of our commissioners and all of our friends in the Commonwealth. So once again, Secretary Newsome, thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for what you displayed here. And we really don't need to have a call of action, because the call of action should be us doing what we're called to do. Oftentimes in these forums, we'll put some things in the Q&A and we'll ask speakers what we should be doing. The thing that we all can do is engage in a form of self-introspection to rid ourselves of our isms. It's always convenient to talk about things that others are doing. They're racist over here, or they're homophobic over here, but we need to work on how we can reduce the things that exist in ourselves.
What the diagnosis part was beneath that. But it sounds like
start with ourselves and then move outward. And once again, happy Black Heritage Month, happy Black History Month. And once again, it's not just a month, it's part of the American fabric. Thank you, my dear friend. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Chad. See you soon.
Thank you, Secretary Newsome. Thank you, everyone.
Great job, everyone.